about. So both of our wizards are here today. So I think both of them are going to say a little bit of something about what this particular full moon is that we're experiencing, and what we can, how we can fully prepare ourselves for this particular aspect that's happening. So without further ado, well, first I want to let you know that this is one of our ISE students that's going to be speaking today, and he is growing exponentially. So I'm just so proud of this particular class that we have, this one and the one right behind, and these students are very greedy. They're just ready for the knowledge, ready for the information, and they're just growing so wonderfully. So I give you a shot.
Open up with a word, prayer. Dear Heavenly Mother, Father, we thank you for this day. Thank you for this fellowship. Please be with us now as we dive into wisdom that has been laid before us. Help us to acknowledge it, integrate it. Ashe.
Ashe.
Well, so a few days ago I spoke to David and was talking about giving a presentation today in preparation for our full moon that's happening this Wednesday. And at that time, it was Thursday, I had this idea, like, oh, I want to talk about this, I'm going to talk about that. And as we got closer to the weekend, Mercury went retrograde yesterday, and now everything that I had to say is out the door. It's like, there's a little remnants left, because what I wanted to speak about was relationships. And I had a specific, I want to speak about relationships specifically, but now it's more like general, and not just relationships between, you and someone else, or me and someone else, but really more about the relationship with me and myself. Like the reader was saying, everything that we're seeing outside of us, we're seeing spirit, we're seeing soul, and we're really looking in the mirror at ourselves. But it's like we're in, a haunted house, mad mirrors and everything like warped and stuff like that. That's the type of reflection that we're seeing. But when you stay on the awareness that you're really seeing a different aspect of yourself, it makes things much easier, especially if you're willing to learn about yourself. In this journey for me, getting into astrology and applying what I've been learning for myself, and then using it to help me get greater understanding in the relationship with my mother, I feel like that was the most challenging relationship with my mother, because it was affecting everything, relationships with all kinds of people, and it really hit me home when it dealt with the emotions. Since I've been up here at ISE, I've been getting more intimate with my emotions. So when I think about relationships and you think about your emotional life, it's like relationships is where we develop our emotion side. We learn more about ourselves from that emotion. When you're just dealing with the intellect, it's just all thoughts. Okay, this is, logic, A, B, 1 + 1 is 2. And when those things start, they don't really add up. And we're going, using our logic, trying to make sense of everything, we're really looking at half the picture, because you're not taking into account the emotions. And what's interesting about that, looking at Mercury going retrograde yesterday, there's also 2 different aspects that have taken place with the Sun and Pluto. They're in a challenging aspect where it reminds me about control. And then bringing that and tying that into relationships is like, when you're using your logic because you want things to be a certain way and things are not making sense about other people's behavior, and you want to be able to control them or manipulate them in some type of way. But it seems that when you looking at the perspective of, you know, I'm seeing myself when I see you, it's like I can really give up all control. I'll just let, you know, let things go how they go, and just really just sit back and kind of take notes and look at that point of view. Not the point of view, but that point of view. There's another aspect that took place yesterday, which was between Venus and Neptune. And in my studies in astrology, when I see Venus, I think of relationships. I think of also values, morals. And when you think of Neptune, you think of compassion, transcendence, and also illusions. And the aspect between Venus and Neptune, it's in an aspect that doesn't motivate. It's not a real challenge. It's not, it's that part that we miss. Like, let's say if we, like I spoke before about, you know, all ideas that started with, we'll say with Aries. That's the beginning of the idea. Then you start to think about the value, the morals behind the idea. That's when you get into Taurus. Then as you begin to communicate and write the idea, develop it a little bit more, thinking about it, that's, you know, Gemini. Then you get to Cancer, and it's like, you know, this really feels good. And it hits the heart when you get to Leo. And when you get to Leo, things are real fun, and, you know, you're having a good time with this thing, like, okay, this is what I'm passionate about. And then you skip that next step, which is Virgo. That's the details. You know, they say the devil's in the details. And we skip that aspect and we go straight to Libra, and we're dealing with the opposition, we're dealing with the relationship. And then we start asking questions like, well, why is this stuff not making sense? You know, we run into that opposition, right? It's because we skip that detail, that preparation for the relationship. But the preparation is all, you know, it's all within you. The reason I brought that up is because the aspect between Venus and Neptune right now, it has that dynamic where it's like, you know, these are what my values are, these are my morals. And trying to bring that together with, you know, being compassionate, being able to, you know, not beating yourself up or being too hard on other people, and then keeping a balance between all of that. And these are the things that I was thinking about that I said I wanted to speak about, but now I'm really more just in a place of, it just feels real, like a new beginning is taking place, like a new phase is starting, because the full moon, excuse me, on Wednesday, it's going to be in Aries, and Aries has that pioneering spirit. Then we have a grand trine in the fire sign, so it's like real inspirational, but to move forward, I can't really see because Mercury is retrograde. So it's like, you know, reflecting back on these things. So I really wanted to just kind of like go around the room and just kind of get an idea of where everybody is right now. Like, what are some of the issues that you all are dealing with, or where is your focus? Can I start with you?
Okay, you know, I was like the challenge still on top of my head. Oh. Well, I have some issues. I am dealing with working in the outside, you know, coming here, you know, having, you know, my friend and mentor, Nana Malay, who's introduced me to this, and, you know, meeting you guys, it's peaceful. When I walk out of here, I'm in that world, and that world really hit me. I thought I used their language last week. I thought I was being punked by Ashton Kutcher. I don't know if you all know that show. Yeah. I really felt that way. And it's, and I've mentioned this to Minister Dorita, the struggle of being in that world and dealing with them and having, and beginning to, my awareness is beginning to get focused, seeing the difference, how they see, they can do the same, they can have the same actions that we may consider inappropriate, but if we do it, then we are emotional, Then we get complained about, you know, you spend more time in your supervisor's office than what you're really, and that was my challenge. I honestly almost walked off. I almost gave my resignation, and then of course you have your friends that say, well, don't go anywhere till you get a job. But see, I'm secure enough for myself to know if I do walk away, I can get something else. And that's just the struggle of being in their world and what's socially acceptable to them, or their standards. And and beginning to understand that I understand why I'm the way I am. You know, I realize I have an intuitive spirit. I can pick, and for years, I felt that was being just really emotional, but realizing that, no, someone had to let me know that, no, you're just being intuitive. You understand what's going on. And then being frustrated because my white colleagues are, and I even tell my white colleagues, you're never going to understand what it means to be a Black person, and we're dealing with Black children. So when you talk about them being, you know, emotionally disturbed or whatever, I see it as they're frustrated and they don't have nobody to understand, because I'm dealing with that, because you're not understanding me. I'm the one that's always being called in that office. Y'all, I see you all do the same thing. So that's what, you know, this week was not great for me. So that, and it's more, I'm more aware of it now. And then in the 12 years that I was there, I'm like, wasn't I going through this 12 years ago? Why now is it becoming very open to me, very
So
black and white, I guess.
that's what we used to say. I like that. And that's good because
It is.
where we are now is this full moon is also it's going to be a total lunar eclipse, and the psychological effect that does is an eclipse it blocks something out, so you can clearly see something else, and that's where you are now. You can clearly see your values when you're talking about Venus and how it relates within your relationships. So you're pretty much in alignment. You know, they say, you know, for certain moments when things are going really well, you're like, oh man, the stars are aligned. But actually, the stars are always aligned. The most challenging aspect of that whole thing is that we're not really aligned with that. And that's where we create the friction, and it seems that, you know, we're against somebody else, those people are against us in our relationships. But it's about that detail, that standing and knowing who you are and having that peace. And you said it's black and white, so that's part of that eclipse. You know, that you can clearly see it now. And it seems that you say this is 12 years ago that this happening. And it coming back around full circle, because everything it has cycles. You're dealing with cycles, and we're going to come back to you. But I want to go to someone else and see. We're talking about relationships and how it relates to this full moon that we're having on Wednesday, which is going to be in Aries. And the sun is in Libra. And every relationship has, you're dealing with one, that's Aries. And then you're also dealing with another one, that's Aries again. But when you're dealing with two of those, now you're dealing with Libra. And those are the astrological opposites. And that's the full moon that we're having. So I'm just going around the room to just kind of get an idea of where people are right now, what their focus on certain challenges that they're dealing.
She just gave me my answer. Because that was my question. You know, how do we come out of ourselves as divine people? And when she was speaking, what I'm seeing is that that's what's happening to us. We're getting our sense, we're opening up, we're starting to see, because we are intuitive people. Even if you look at movies, like we talk about movies, they always put that old black lady in there they're going to go to for advice. And because that's who we are, they're showing us, but we were afraid to step up. So now that she's been her 12 years a slave, she's ready to be received.
Yeah.
And we are ready for her. And I think that is what the ISE is all about, to have a place for people to open up to start doing that work. Because even Benta, who's a teacher, she wrote a curriculum, and she went to the charter schools to get the money. But when they saw what she was going to teach, turned her down. She couldn't do it. So she went back into teaching because she has to, you know, make money, but it's still in her heart to actually have her own school. And that's what we need, because we need to start teaching one another what we are feeling and what we are experiencing, that it's not crazy, but that's who we are. And as long as we stay in their school, they will medicate our children, and they will tell our children when you ADD, this or that. And they are not, they are more, but they don't know it because they're not. No, those are spirits, soulless people. They're spirits. Thank you. You gave me some clarity, because I was going to say what my relationship was. But
I just wanted to share, I think that there's no accident that African people have talked about, you know, how, you know, that we got soul, you know, and even though oftentimes it's sort of on the surface, the truth is we are truly the soulful people.
yes.
And as our people awaken to that, we are definitely ones to help them awaken to that. Because the phrase I like to use is we are spiritual beings having a human experience. And as long as I maintain that consciousness, then everything here only relates to the other. A phrase that someone shared with me a long time ago, they said the Jews never expected the Germans to educate them.
Wow.
And I think about that often, and I work not only in arts but in education, and that we are not going to free our children through their system. Right? It never was going to happen. And those that can remember the alternative schools that we still have, and also had in more prevalence in the 60s, we have to recreate, because our children literally are dying spiritually.
Yes.
I think the Hispanics are ahead of us, because I just saw something on the news where they're actually allowing themselves to be separate and have separate, there's something government that has come through that's going to allow them to have separate but equal schools.
They already have it.
I knew they already, but the
because I
government
teach
thing is like,
in
that
Central
you
New
go.
York for the children who are daycare workers. You can't just walk off the street now and just say, I want to take care of babies. You have to be an educated person to do this. So I'm assisting them on the English side of that aspect. And they already have it. They have the Central Institute down there, 14th and Columbia Road. So they are already doing it. And the Chinese right now have a school here where only the best and the brightest can attend that school, and they don't care what ethnic you are, but you have to be the best.
And those communities have had them. They're continuing, the Jewish as well. So even though a lot of the Chinese students that go to school, whatever school, they still have their programs after school and in the evenings, as we used to prevalently. And a number of Spanish and Latino are also doing it. But there are also a large number of their communities not under that umbrella. So they, like we, you know, have to continue to, you know, encourage and incorporate that, because as we move through those experiences out there, they're encouraging any of us not to behave the way that we are behaving, and to minimize and devalue, you know, this, you know, kind of behavior. I did want to say too that sometimes when you're going through the most amount of change is usually when you're getting closer to where you should be. So getting closer to where you want to be isn't always comfortable. It's usually letting you know that you're on the right path, and you have to work, fight, and struggle to get to the next phase.
Corrective actions.
There's a phrase that oftentimes I use when those experiences come up for me, and it's don't give up 5 minutes before the miracle. That's one. And the other one is you can't put new wine in an old bottle. So you have to change from the inside out. So you can't see yourself as a victim. You actually have to see yourself as a victor. You know, and that process we go through. And I was privileged to work with Ayana and many other people in our circle. And one of the things she reminded the other day, she said, if you've gotten this far in life, you have passed. So whatever it is you're going through, you didn't fail, you've passed to get here. So you've made some corrective actions, and whether they're perfect or not, you've passed. And there's other things you need to do to get to the next phase, through the next phase, to pass and to pass through. And the only way out is through. So as we go through all these things, we have these wonderful folks. We have the moon that's a reflection of our, beauty and glory. Even with the retrograde, which tends to have things a little askew, it's important to know this. I love the full moon. I'm a full moon kid. So the moon starts as soon as it comes out of being new, and then that crescent, I start out. So now, if anyone saw it last night, it was beautiful and clear. And to know that we go through this phase of an eclipse, it's another rebirth.
Yeah.
So it's almost like we get another full moon, 2 full moons in one.
Yeah. It's interesting hearing what you were saying, and the symbol for this new moon is nature spirits dancing in the light of sunlight. And the keynote of that is basically attuning to the invisible forces that are at play. So like, for where I am now, following the cycles and bringing it from just intellectual understanding, but actually feeling it, I'm just at peace where everything is in alignment. Like I said, the only thing that's at times that's out of alignment is, you. It's us. Like when people speak of Mercury retrograde, they think, oh my God, da, 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 da. But we can't always be in forward motion. Sometimes we got to sit down and reflect. Like Rita was saying, she was ready to go forward with that energy corner. She said, I need to just be, just relax. And I'm listening to what you're all saying, and we're talking about, I'll just say, the other. Right? This is when you're dealing with the Libra energy. So you have the other. You have these people, they're doing this, and this group is doing that. That's looking at the other. But the full moon is shining the spotlight on you, the individual. Like you said, it's about new beginnings. It's a birth. It's also about endings. And even as you now have this awareness, now you're coming into alignment with who you are, which is what this full moon in Aries is about. You. It's not about anybody else. They can say whatever they want to say, but to the heirs of Aries, he doesn't hear that. This is what my focus is. Even if you have to go into those places where you feel like, oh, I'm on the plantation, you can reframe that whole dynamic where I'm doing what I need to get there. If you're attuning to the invisible forces that are at play. So it's nowhere that you need to get out of or get into because you're just in alignment wherever you go. So there's no outside influence. Now it may, like I was saying, with the square that we have between Pluto and the sun is that vital power. It's that, the core of who you are, what's in your heart. And then, Pluto's dealing with transformation. But then it's also about, about control. So, you have this dynamic of wanting to control your destiny. But when you are in alignment with yourself, you don't have to control anything. It's already in control. It's just you being still, knowing that you are in perfect alignment with yourself, and not really entertaining, other people's ideas and their thoughts. Because, people will come and say, well, you need to be doing this, you need to be doing that. And it's good to have the conversation. But once again, just tuning with the energy of this full moon is like, oh, thank you for that. But you do what you have to do for you, regardless of anybody else's, And it's, like I said, I didn't have much to say. But with this Mercury going retrograde, we get a chance to look back over the last 90 days and review, ourselves. Look at how well we have done in confrontation. Look how we can clearly see what it is that we want. But you can't really see what you want until you get a contrast and know what you don't want. So it's like, you gotta be thankful for that too. Wow, like you explained your situation. All of this stuff is happening, so now you got a chance to see what you don't want, which brings you into alignment with what you do want. So there's just peace. With that, I'm gonna pass it over to David.
Pass the baton.
Whoa. Yeah, because for where I am right now, how things are aligned for me, like I said, I initially said, I want to say this, I'm gonna shake, some people up because I was feeling a certain way, but now I'm just like, I have nothing to prove about, like there was a part of me that was there that was like, I'm gonna get up and I'm gonna talk because I want to be able to share how much knowledge I have, but I don't have to really go through that. And I'm connecting with you on that because it's like, I gotta prove this point. These are your values are for you. And if you can't have that conversation, you can clearly see the contrast of who you need to talk to, but you just gotta focus on yourself. And for me, I'm done for now. Pass it off to David.
Wow, yes.
So much on the foundation that we already know that we have to do. That's like talk about perfection. Full moons. Let's just get a little bit more information about it so you can see where we're coming from. Full moons looks like a duality. So when I say the word duality, what do you think about? Think about two different things. I want to say the word truth. Now what are you thinking about? Is it in line with that duality? There can only be one. There's only one. But we keep saying two. What is that about? And it's not that it's a bad thing, because on this plane, things are like that. You have left and right, up and down. Arguably good and bad, white and black. All the contrasts. So they're not bad things. They're just tools we need to learn to work with. And this full moon, as he was saying, the sign of Aries, you have these nature spirits working with us. And they're working with us. That's not an arguable fact. Whether we see that or not, it's up to us to choose to decide. A lot of times when we don't see something, when we feel something, it doesn't feel good. The sister was talking about being comfortable. We're being challenged to come out of our comfort zone. And we say, no, I don't think so. I don't want to go there. And this other, this illusory duality other, is pressing us to go there. Saying, you need to do this. But this other isn't the other, it's you. You're telling yourself, you got to go here. If you want to get to what you really want in your heart. There's another duality, head and heart. Head knows a lot of things. And we've been living in the head since around the 1500s. Now, pretty much that's when the Europeans started their colonization of the world. And they had an idea to take over the world, and they did a pretty good job. And they said, but in order to hold that, we have to take control of their minds, whoever they are, whoever we come to. And that's what they did. They started educating people, not leading them to themselves, not a true education, but leading them to what these people wanted you to see. Because if you deal with that, you're not going to remember anything about yourself consciously. We're back to those dualities, subconscious, unconscious. But unconscious things have a way of coming up to the surface. Come up through your feelings, they come up through memories, and you can't even trace where they come from. You say, what is that about? Why am I feeling this way? You meet a person, you like them automatically, or you dislike them. What is that about? What do you remember? What are you being reminded of? Are you even looking at that? Or are you just reacting with your feelings to what you've been taught to react to? And we all have been in this, like I'm saying, for the past, 500 years. We've been going through this kind of conditioning, not to pay attention to ourselves. And this full moon is going to remind you of that. It's in Aries, like Brother Cushion said, it's about who you are. I am, that's Aries. I am all of that. And it's about to be eclipsed. Blotted out. Darkness. Now let's look at darkness. Let's look at light. Another duality. I'm going to ask you, and anybody here can say, or you can think of, can you see light? Can you see light? When you're on planet Earth, you think everything you look at is light, and you're right, it's lighted, but it's not light. When you go into outer space, it's dark, but the light is there. So what's going on? I'm going to leave that with you to think about what light and darkness is. If darkness isn't what you think it is, and since we already set down the duality thing that we know it's only one thing, there's only light. So if you're perceiving darkness, arguably you've been taught to do that. Because when you can't see, or when you think you can't see, you start getting, oh, how do I get to my comfort zone? Life and death. Another thing. My sister's going through a challenge, and doctors telling me that she's in the transition point yet. I don't know about all that stuff. They could be right. But I'm observing her going through this phase. I can tell her thinking has changed. And I can tell she's always looking for something to relate to now, when she's in this new phase of whatever this illness has put her in a mindset. And it's interesting to watch, educational to watch too, because if you ask her a question, she doesn't say anything to you for maybe a few minutes. So you got to be patient. You got to remember what you're talking about. Because like elocution says, she's me. I need to listen to this conversation. When you're in a conversation, people say things you've never heard before. So that person's whack. The person's crazy. They're out to lunch. Are you in your comfort zone saying that? Because they could be saying something to you that you really need to hear, because actually they hear you talking. They say, are you listening? Scripture says, take care how you hear.
Thank you.
Take care how you hear. Because if you reject anything, and this is what we teach at INC, say yes to everything. People say, I don't want to say yes to that. It's okay. You still have free will to do what you will. Free will has consequences and responsibility.
Yes,
She talked about that square to Pluto. Pluto says it's time to change. Pluto rules death too. When he passes over a part in your life, that part's going to change, either with you willingly or you're going to be dragged, kicking and screaming. Pluto said it's time to change. And this is the corporation stuff that's going on now. They've created, made corporations people. And it's interesting because people, you can have jurisdiction over. But people who created the corporations are pretty sharp. They say, if we can push a law in to say that this corporation is a person, then we can be a person anywhere in the world and not have to be answerable to anybody. And that's what the whole thing is about. So now these corporations have grown to all these conglomerates. They're making money hands over fist, but there's a limitation on the money. How much can you make? There's not a limitation on richness and riches zone. People get the two things confused. Move back to that duality thing that you have to be sharp and consciously aware of. Because as soon as you get into your comfort zone, you start accepting things because you don't notice them. Now, like you mentioned that the devil's in the details, those little things that you don't look at. They say, oh, that's not important, let that go. But then it comes back around and you have this vague memory. I think I almost remember what that was, and then you say, no, that's not important, let it go. So you find yourself jacked in a situation. It's all because you just forgot there's only one thing. That one thing is you. You are the greatest thing in this universe going. You've always been that way. I was blessed today to run the healing session, and all these beautiful, powerful sisters came up and honored me. And I was impressed with the power that was coming through them. I was like, wow, their minds were so strong, their hearts were so strong. Sometimes there seemed to be separation between them, but the strength was there. I said, when they get these connected in alignment, it's going to be awesome. And no eclipse is going to be able to block it out. Even if their other comes up and attempts to do so, because they will know in their hearts, because they will have a conversation with their minds. And that's what we have to remind ourselves. Everybody wants to get into the spirit world, they want to become clairvoyant. I want to see what's going to happen next. Back to the dualities. But what's going to happen is what's going to happen. And you're already in alignment with that when you allow it to happen. Sometimes we see that we have to take another step. And when we look out with our physical eyes, we see this great abyss. It says, maybe I shouldn't take this step right now. But everything that's in you is a scream, take this step now. You have a decision to make. This is about remembering who you are. You have a decision to make. It's a responsible decision. Education. We're responsible for our own education.
Yes.
It's necessary to learn the system that you're in because you have to know what they're doing. So yeah, go to the school, see what they're doing, see how they do it. Because knowing that, you'll know how to get around it. That's what I found out when I was working in the world.
That's right.
I didn't understand it for the first 30 years. One day something wakes up in you and says, I need to know some more information. I think I have to have some questions answered. And if you're asking the questions, you're the one who has the answers. Your heart has every answer. It's an organ of information, communication. The head, so small next to the heart when it's acting on its own. It knows a lot of things. We know a lot of things, and we think we have 10,000 choices to make. There's only one choice to make all the time. One choice. And that's the truth. And you are the truth. And if you don't choose yourself, prepare for the things that are coming. You'll be looking at us, you're not going to fight. Because it won't exist as long as you're not in line with yourself. The Libra symbol, I think, for the sun, which is opposing the moon. It was a boat warrant, which you need to repair after a storm. And all of us know what a storm is like. We've lived it all our lives. And the storm represents the unconscious, things that come up out of nowhere. Pretty strong, and they do a lot of, looks like they do a lot of destruction. And then we're back to the conscious and the unconscious. What we know about things, from that morning, we used to take our boat out, ride on the ocean, on the river, on the lake. We felt very comfortable. Saw a lot of nice things. Then the storm came and wrecked that mooring that we use. So we're reminded we have to keep it in repair. Because if that place isn't there for us to go to, like ISE, and you have to create that place in yourself, we're just an outer symbol of it to remind you who you are. But it's your responsibility to know who you are. Nobody can push you to that. We can put the information there. That's what education is. It's about leading you to who you are. If you don't want to go, you see things you don't like, then you're going to see things you don't like. When you get introduced to new things about yourself that you've never seen before, there are going to be some ugly things according to your old condition. Say, I don't want to do that. I can understand your trepidation. You want to step back. Say, that's ugly. Some of it is going to be downright frightening. I'm a very soft-spoken person, but don't take my words too lightly. Because when I say shocking, if you're asleep, you're going to wake up. And you're gonna wanna go back to sleep. And this is your choice again. This is the full moon being placed in front of you. It's about relating to other people, relating to a specific person, relating to yourself, your higher self and lower self, but there's only one self. But it's up to you to remember that. You have to hold these things in. Former education teaches us some details, and it teaches us about separations. Both things are necessary, but we have to remember there is no separation. Everything is one. Anything that's happened to you, anything that's ever happened to you, you have been the author of it, even unknowingly. You just have to remember. What does it take to remember? To be still. Who wants to be still? Everybody gets anxious when stuff gets quiet. Try riding in the car with somebody not saying anything. If they're a regular person out in the world, they're going to start talking to you about all kinds of stuff. Stuff that you thought you didn't want to hear, but they're going to be talking about stuff that's moving in you that you haven't been paying attention to. And that's why you hooked up with that person, and that's just an example of some of the things we hide from ourselves. Will you choose to be irrational when it's time to be irrational? You want things to be logical. A follows B, C, D, E. Well, that system works sometimes. It breaks down a lot too. That's what you witness in the world today. You can say, well, if you don't do it my way, I'm just going to bomb you out of existence. That's their answer to things. Their answer is our answer. This is what we've come to in our consciousness, but we don't admit it. So we have to see it on the outside happen. We can change it on the inside. But you have to want to. You have to want to be able to be open to irrational things, irrational so-called solutions. Things that don't make sense. We have to have courage. What is courage? That's another word. Can we balance it out with fear? Nobody wants to be afraid. I'm not afraid. Sure you're not. Right. But fear is something that you have to have. It's a necessary ingredient because with that fear, this is how you learn how to overcome. If you don't overcome that fear, you'll never get the courage. Because there's being crazy courageous, but that's not the same thing as overcoming the fear. Facing the thing that we're afraid of. What is that? What does that look like? We all know what it looks like because we back away from it most of our life. Now that we're older, we're starting to say, okay, I'm starting to see a resilience here. Got to make change. Then that little fear comes up again. You know what happened the last time? We have the ability to forget. Then we have the ability to forget impartial. We have the ability to remember. And remember impartial. It's our choice what we're going to remember. We have lots of experiences that we'd like to forget. Yet every one of them that we had is important. And not in just this lifetime, but the other lifetimes. Because we're probably doing the same thing all over again. Things are just getting more complicated. As technology improves, science improves, they don't want to deal with the spiritual things, so a lot of stuff starts backing up. Complications. We have the mind that can settle those complications. We can bring peace to any situation. A lot of questions usually come in the first year class, people will say, well, how do you do that? There is no how. What? I said, that's where we need to go. Start there. What is it that you're dealing with? Do you even know? A lot of times we have conversations, and you're asking somebody, we had a conversation about thinking about a month ago. And people were dumbfounded with, they didn't know what thinking was, even though we do it every day. Been doing it a long time, doing it unconsciously. When they started looking and they didn't have any words to match up with it, we went on a couple of hours of our service trying to get in alignment with that. And they were just planting the seed. We're planting seeds now. We want you to look, take the responsibility 100% for everything that happens in your life. If you see it happening, it's happening for you to become aware. This is what's going on inside. Are you paying attention? Consciousness. We all are conscious, but sometimes we choose to be unconscious. What's that about? I always put questions out there for you. I don't have the answers. I'm working and struggling just like you are. I have the same things that you got. I use some of the tools. I know how to use some of the tools differently than you, but that doesn't really matter. Because you all have tools that you know how to use to get to where you want to be. The question is, where is it that you really want to be? Where do you really want to be? I'm going to suggest you're already there, but you're not paying attention to it. What does that look like? You have to look at that yourself. You have to look at that yourself. I'm getting in alignment to make a move down to South States, which is what elocution coming up, giving you the full moon is about today. He did an excellent job, a wonderful job. And he's going to say a lot of things to you, like I said to you in the past, things that you don't understand on First Street. And I'm wondering, I used to wonder what that was. Why is it when I'm having a conversation with somebody, they say something I don't understand? They're using the same language I'm using, but I don't know what they're talking about. What's going on there? After a little searching, this is what I came to for me, and you can look at it and see if it matches with you, or if you can come up with something and add to it. If you do, please tell me. But I found out that I had a hard heart. That's why I couldn't hear. It was my conscious choice that I conveniently forgot about. I've already know this stuff. I know what they're talking about. Whatever they say, if they say anything that's out of alignment with what I already know, don't do that. So why should I listen? That's what I taught. And I did that for a long time. I had a lot of arguments when I was a younger man. I was a very good debater. I could convince people. What does it mean? I don't know. Because it left me in the same place that I was. Now that I'm older and I've learned how to listen, there's so much information coming in that people don't even say with words. That's the best kind of information there is. And it's with us all the time. So we just need to listen. We have everything that we need. And if you want anything else, I don't know where you're going to get it from. Everything in this world comes out of spirit, and that's who we are. We're divine. We're priestesses and priests. What does a priest do? What does a priestess do? They don't wear a collar and a cloth. They can meet anybody and everybody. And they can meet them right where they are, because they know that's who they are. And when they listen, they can hear what needs to be done. Whether it's a word or a touch, whatever it is. That's what this full moon is really opening us up to. Yes, you are the great I am. And yes, the symbol is going to block you out. The sun is going to make you look like you're dark. Well, we love being dark anyway. That's who we are. This is who we are as a people. We can stand strong in that if we face our fears. And after facing them, overcome them, and then take that step into the abyss and see what happens. Because nobody can tell you. Anything that you know, you've had the experience about. If you haven't had the experience, you can't tell anybody anything. You can't lead anybody to themselves, because you don't know how to get there yourself. So we need these experiences that we keep shying away from. This full moon, Tuesday, Wednesday, is just to remind you. Ashe.
Ashe.
So I just want to share one word with you all. A couple of words. So, you know, there's a lot of human doings but what's human being? Is it linked to the five senses, or is it based on evolution from the perspective of Europeans? Nah, you see, I think that there's more to being human than what we've been told, or should I say sold. To those who don't stand for nothing, to those who rather be seated in gold than to sit in the seat of their soul. And I stand guilty as charged with no apology. But since I've been studying soul psychology, it brought me to ISE. And now I'm up here asking questions like, am I thinking my feelings or am I feeling my thoughts? But you see, I'm not really feeling my thoughts because I wasn't thinking my thoughts. It's like I've been trapped in this cipher on this quest to the ion with questions for the oracle because I'm trying to free Zion. But all of the questions that I had were rhetorical because I already knew the answer. But like I told y'all, I wasn't thinking, I was in my feelings like Cancer. And that's astrologic. But you know, many look but don't see, and they try to blame it on their optics. And right when you're about to get to the heart of the matter, they want to change the topic. Like, chill, brother. Like you're somewhere down in the tropics. But you see me, I just want to shed some light and take you up a level. But sometimes I have that fear, and I feel like some people may call me the devil. And it's funny because the devil's in the details, but most people don't read between the lines, they focus on retail. They probably think life's a beach with headphones made of seashells, and I can't argue if that makes them sleep well. With big dreams, but mostly they all transitory. And it's time to make plans for our people and ourselves, and that is mandatory. And I find that it's much better to be the truth than to speak the truth.
Yes.
With that said, I'm done. It's time to be the proof.
That's right.
Very, 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 very powerful.
Okay.
The full moon will be on Wednesday, so I'm going to invite you, if you'd like to participate, we'll do a full moon meditation on Wednesday, although we have a class that night. So we'll come, we'll do the full moon meditation, and then when it's over, I'd like to ask everybody to get up and leave so we can have our class. Okay?
What time for meditation?
Let's do it at 7:30. Is that good?
But the class started.
Class starts at 7, but I want everybody to be here who wants to come.
Oh.
So I'm giving them a half an hour of time to, get here, and we can do the meditation and then have a class. And I know my class won't mind because they are so powerful.
Whoa, right?
Yeah. So, I have nothing to say.
Yes.
I have nothing to say. I mean, it was just very, very powerful. I mean, the message, the information. And if you have ears to hear, I hope you heard. And I hope you let it resonate within your beingness. Because a lot of times we think that we know what we're doing and we're wrong as two left shoes. And we have, if your spirit is telling you something, you've got to listen to what it is it's saying. And a lot of times we'll put in our own conscious mind and say, yeah, but this is what I'm supposed to be doing. No. If you're there, you're supposed to be there. You don't take yourself out where you're supposed to be. But we do. We got to look at that. So, are there any announcements of things that are happening in the community that we need to be aware of? I know we did not have our summer retreat. We pushed it back to May. So it's $125. I expect for you guys, if you don't have the money, start saving up the money.
We're doing payment plans.
We do payment plans. We do layaway. I know y'all know about the layaway.
They brought layaway back.
Right, they sure did. So we have a layaway plan if you want to go on that.
With day trade.
It's May 25th through the 24th, which would be that.
25th through the 24th.
We're going back with
No,
the
wait a
time
minute,
retrograde.
23, 24. Yeah, 22, 23, 24. And we haven't really decided whether we still want to keep it as a silent retreat or an active retreat. So that's yet to be discussed.
Yeah, incorporate that.
Yeah, well, we could. Maybe do a couple of hours of total silence. So,
I said, or a day.
or a day, yeah. We could do that.
Is that the Memorial Day weekend?
It is.
Okay.
It is. So we looked at that because I thought, well, people could still come and then they would have that Monday off because we would be coming back on that Sunday. So, it seemed to be a good time. First Fridays will be this Friday coming for the females. And we're going to talk about hair. And I know that's a big topic for us women, you know. We need to understand what hair is and, you know, how do we utilize our hair. Because we've had a lot of issues with our hair. You know, you see those commercials. And every time I see them, I want to punch the TV. But we're going to be talking about hair. And what does that mean? We're discussing each aspect of ourselves because I figure if we start understanding who and what we are and how to utilize those various aspects about ourselves, then we can start healing our nation because it starts with us, Mother. We have to, and Mother has to have her mind about her because half of us Black women, well, I understand that y'all are out of your freaking mind. Out of your everlasting African mind. There you go. And we need to understand that. We need to first say, yes, okay, I'm crazy. Let me get healed. And then walk through that healing challenge that we have in front of us. I'm inviting anybody to come up and sit in on our ISE classes just to see, well, is this something that I could do? Do I like this? Is it too much for me? Is it not enough for me? Whatever, you can come in, you can sit in on the classes. And the classes are 7 o'clock to 9:30 on Tuesday nights, Wednesday nights, and Thursday nights. Okay. Any other announcements? There's some refreshments in the back as well. Yes.
I heard about something this morning on the way in. There's a Indian dance troupe that's performing a French opera. And the name of it means the kings and queens, or gods and goddesses of Egypt, or something like, that's like the core of it. It's being performed tomorrow night, which is Monday at 6:30. Lives at the Kennedy Center.
And stage?
I'm not sure.
I think it's the theater lab.
Is it?
The top floor.
You have some information
I
on
don't
it?
have anything, but now that you mention, I remember reading.
Right, because their sister was on the radio talking about how the Indians use their body as an instrument of communication, which I think Hawaiians do as well with their hands and so on. But they say they use their body as instruments of communication, and it's a different adaptation of what the French did in their operas. It was like a Baroque kind of thing. Baroque is like extremely, overly everything. So, but anyway, I thought that might be a nice cultural experience to see the Indians do an adaptation of a French opera that's from a Baroque style, which is,
So is that East Indians or Native American?
Pakistani, like this kind of thing.
That's what I thought.
Yes. So I'm gonna ask that,
Tomorrow talking about it and instruct my fans about shit.
okay. I'm gonna ask that you give to the Institute of Spiritual Enlightenment, without doing hurt or harm to yourself.
Hey, hurt yourself.
There you go. Hit yourself. There you go. There you go. Hit yourself. We have to keep the doors open. There are so many places that are closing, at least there's places here for us to do our various meetings, to heal our community, because our community really, really needs healing. I keep looking at how many brothers are just dying. I mean, are you mad yet? We're not angry yet. We're not angry yet.
I don't know.
So that's any questions or concerns about what we talked about what's happening? That was so powerful.
question, and that's only because I generically understand Mercury in retrograde, where Mercury tends to shift things so that they seem to be obstacles and maybe even go in reverse. Is there any more expansive thing that?
Well, there's a couple different ways. Mercury retrogrades are, we'll say, 90 days apart. So the last time Mercury retrograde was 90 days. Like I said, when Mercury's direct, that's like you thinking proactively and progressive, like, okay, I gotta do this tomorrow. You're thinking forward. But when it goes retrograde, it's more like reflecting. You know, you do that at the end of the day. I don't know how many people do that. They say, wow, so this is what happened today. I met that person, and you're thinking back. So Mercury retrograde is like that. It's like kind of like where you say, oh, I forgot to go to the store. So when you say it looks like it's an obstacle, what happens is Mercury's going back over the grounds that it covered. So specifically for this particular Mercury retrograde, it's going back to the degree that it was in on the 15th of September. So you can also look at it like we're covering that ground over. So when you reflect, you get a chance to see the things that you missed. So it brings the energy back up. So you might be thinking, like my mom, for example, she wanted to move to Seattle, but now it's details that were missed, and now that Mercury was slowing down and going retrograde, these things are now coming up. It's just natural because we're always forward thinking really fast. If you think about yesterday,
so the whole thing is cyclical. So, okay, that's the first time I've heard. I understood about the quote unquote backward motion. But
And I, when he said that, what I thought about
was every 90 days.
Yeah, when he said that, what I thought about is it's something that an exercise that we give our students up here is that every night when you go to bed, you should be looking over your day and giving a blessing to your day, or like he said, oh, I didn't do this, or I did do that, or I said something to somebody, and then forgive yourself first about what it is that you might have done or said, and then forgive the other person. Because a lot of times I can remember when I was in the corporate world, you know, things would be on my mind, and I'm not paying attention here, but I'm here in the head. And somebody gets on the elevator and they're speaking to me, and I'm not speaking because I'm here, and you know, and I'm all consumed. Then that person who spoke to me goes to their cubicle and they say, she was saying that she don't speak to nobody. Who she thinks she is? They're just spitting out all this negativity on me. I have a problem, or I'm getting a cold, then that negativity on me, and I'm not feeling so bad. So to prevent that, when you go to bed at night, what you do is that you forgive yourself for not being aware of other people and what you might have done to them unconsciously to make them say something to you, and they are creating karma. Okay, you see how we participate with one another? So if you are forgiving yourself for things that you've done consciously and unconsciously, and then forgive them for they know not what they do.
Right.
See, we have a very divine position here in the world. And once we start understanding it, then we can fix it. Because it's for us to fix anyway. We have to know this information. We have to do this. There's no option. There's no out. We are it.
We're probably ones for our families and other people in our circle, and each one of us is bringing other people with us.
Exactly. Because when you start, you send out that rippling effect, and you touch somebody else. That's why we're here at ISE, because each one that we touch, when we go out into our world, we're healing. And you're that, what do you call that, the weather vane? You know, you get struck first, and then you diffuse it, and you have to. You have to.
And I also want to share one of the things I personally do when I'm in a zone and I don't see people. Sometimes I consciously am aware of it. It's important to give ourselves permission and forgiveness. I've done it enough that I say to people that I know, if you see me and speak to me and I forget to speak back, I probably have seen you spiritually and have spoken to you already, my mind and body. And usually that's the case, because they'll go by and I realize, oh, I actually didn't say something to them, but I actually saw them and I did speak to them in my being, you know, but something else was going on and didn't come out. And I've said that, and most people have gotten it,
Right.
you know, so, you know, so I'm feeling
To be
myself.
mindful. Before it happens. Being mindful. Okay, so, if there are no other questions or concerns, I'm asking you to go ahead. Oh, here
I
we go.
mean, well, mine weak.
No, go ahead. Let's hear
No,
it.
mine's weak. I'm gonna need a couple hours. No, seriously, because for me, this retrograde took me back 20 years.
Wow.
Which I know that it took me way back. When I mean way back, I'm talking about situations, females that I used to deal with back 20 years ago. I haven't seen them over 20 years. It's popping up. I noticed. I'm like, man, this retrograde. That's why I'm been around.
But it's also because of where you are too.
Right.
So you made a decision, and this is what I always tell you, when you decide to come here to study,
That's right.
you have already put out the information to the universe. I'm ready to receive, okay?
And change.
And change, and it's gonna hit you hard. It's gonna knock you, and most people will run from it. Because it's like this sister over here said, when you're starting to really get it, people will run from it. They hide from it. It's a scary place to be. And we know, because what? You ain't been here. Somebody's at the door. You ain't been here. I see it all the time. People will tell me, they say, well, my mother is sick, and because she's sick, I gotta drop out of class, I gotta do this. And I'm saying, okay, you had already prepared that situation. Do you see what I'm saying? No matter what it is you tell me, I already know that you already prepared that situation so that you can do this, because you know everything. You know all of the answers. So you have already prepared that. You said, well, how can I do that for my mother? Because you knew when you made the choice to even come here to incarnate that you were going to have the opportunity to learn, and you were still pumping yourself. So you created it. Because you thought that that would be a serious enough issue.
Right. An excuse to get permission to talk about.
Right. I love spirit. Because I see me too. I see me doing stuff.
You know, I'm talking to myself.
Right, and that's all we do is talking to ourselves. And I say, okay, why'd you create that? Why'd you do that? Yeah, I think she had her hand first.
Well, I wanted to make mention about Mercury in the retrograde as well. Mercury is the planet that rules my sun sign, which is Virgo, and my birthday was the 15th. And I was wondering why I was Virgo 17th. What I was feeling was that same energy. I was re-feeling, rethinking, reviewing, revisioning what happened, all the energy that was going on the 15th on my birthday. And I was like, why was I feeling that way? But you helped me to sense why. But I also noticed that when Mercury's in retrograde, and I think, communication is something that Mercury rules, one of the things. So he said the devil's in the details. Communication is one of those things, and it rules contracts, it has things, business agreements, anything that you have to make decisions on a lot of times with information. All of that, you have to really fine tune your process, your procedure, stay on point. Keep it, that's just like double check yourself, triple check yourself. And something that I have to do with my job is triple check. And I've noticed that myself, I'm doing that with myself more and more when retrograde comes out. Now I got all these blanks that I've been filling in for things, and I'm receptive to. It's like it tries to prepare me, or maybe I know to prepare. I don't know, but I just recognize I'm back in that feeling of that sense of that energy, and I was reviewing, reflecting, revisioning, whatever, and matriculating it like, the organized mind that a Virgo might sometimes be. Sometimes I say. But I recognize that's something that Mercury communication is key. So
And it's good to get this reaffirmation because mine was actually on the 17th, which is a Wednesday, which is the actual day of the week of which I was born.
Oh,
And in that day, I actually, people say, what are you doing for your birthday? And I'm a very active, I got Aries rising, so I'm active and I'm out and I want to, be with everybody. It's my birthday. I celebrated for like 90 days. You know what I'm saying?
I was just thinking
On that day,
every day.
I actually was in, and I took off. All the work that I do, I didn't do any work. I did spiritual bath. I did spiritual work with some of my elders, and just was in reclusion for the entire day. And now I understand. Not only was I a choice to do it, but the inclination. I understand what was part of the inclination to do that. And I think as we continue to grow and tune ourselves, that's when we know when we got to shut down.
Yes.
And it's important that we recognize that fact too. So, thank you.
Any other questions, concerns? Oh, yes, you.
My question and my concern is, and I've heard this thing throughout my being here at the Institute for the past few months. Why is it that when we talk about this spiritual journey, when we're talking about the work that we need to do, and staying focused and have our intentions in check or whatever, why is it that I'm always hearing it's hard, it's ugly, it's messy, I don't quite understand that. I mean, I've been on my spiritual journey for a while too, and I'm not picking that up. Where it's so hard, and ugly, or nasty, or frightening. Am I missing something?
I don't think anyone has said to you that's all it is. There are times when it might be that, and those are the times I found it was hardest sometimes to push through, because I'm trying to figure out, I'm doing all this and divine grace and da-da-da-da-da, and what? And as one example for me, if I might share, I have a son who was murdered. And I'm a divine person, I'm a minister, and I'm an environment, and I'm assisting people, and I'm like God, like, what? All the service I got you, right? And I be honest, I allowed myself to get mad at God. I said, we got a relationship. I ain't mad at you. What? You couldn't have just pushed him out the way, and and what I'm saying is that was a rough time for me spiritually. Even with all that I know, it was still extremely difficult. So, in my past, I have some challenges that, but otherwise it's great.
I was going to hear from you. You know me, I got the answers. Because I've heard her talk enough, and I was just going to say, what about your family?
Oh,
With the food and stuff, you know what I'm saying? And that's that part.
Yeah,
It's just like just
I
like
said when I hear it come up in the conversation, and it's not making that connection for me to like, well, why are we?
Right. Yeah.
I'm not having that experience, but yeah, I do go home with my machete,
You got to do something that you don't really want to do.
Right.
And there's a point, I think, too, and I have to share for myself, that after a while, being on the road for a while, I embrace those things.
Yes.
Okay. I even started, I have to share this transformation. I went through a transformation. I never embraced my bills. That come in the mail, and before I would be like,
Get happy.
because I want to spend it on something else instead of that, but I know I've got to spend it on that. But now I come out like, oh, site bill, yay! Why? Because it's something I got. I need the lights on in my house. I need the gas. I need my phone. I need my little tablet bill. Okay.
Look at it as
And I'm glad I have the resources to keep it flowing. I mean, because there's things you want, and I might not like what they charging me and all the other things that could go with it, but I can now. I had a storm destroy my house. Some people don't know me. I mean, absolutely, totally, absolutely devastated everything. Condemned. No, you can't go back in. What? But I gotta get. And the only thing intact in my house was my spiritual shrine room. Everything was absolutely intact. Everything else, the roof was completely on, everything else destroyed. And I just walked out of there and I just kept walking. And a lot of people said, I didn't know that happened to you. I said, I didn't know that happened to you. I mean, at some point, what am I gonna do? You know, pull my hair, I ain't got no hair. And so it was just a part of, I call it equipoise. You get to a point that God got me. So whatever it is I need, and of course anything I really needed, I had. The spiritual stuff is all there. Everything else you can get replaced. You can get new clothes, you can get a new car. You can, I mean, you know, and it's just another one of those life lessons. And it's stuff was a storm. You know, and this is the one.
Or physical storm.
And someone shared, one of my kids shared this with me last week, and I got to share this, and that was, and it was about a storm. Hold on a minute. Sometimes you can't wait for the storm to clear. Sometimes you gotta learn how to dance in the rain. So, in some aspect, it could be raining on all of us at some point in time. If it's not raining on you, it's a friend or somebody else you're helping with support and love, and, you know, illness of someone, all kinds of things and dynamics. So, you know,
But that's why they make umbrellas, galoshes, raincoats,
right.
rain hats, all those
But
things.
also that's why we're here. I'm real clear that the reason why we're here, they say good things don't fall out the sky, they come through other people. So whatever you need, ain't falling, literally, ain't gonna fall in your lap. You've got to go through someone, some way, either it's a car dealer, to get it. And so I really am really clear that we're just here to help each other through all the storms, all the celebrations, you know, all the insights, you know, wisdoms, you know, so we can make it through this life lesson to the next journey.
All right, any other questions, anything? Not, I'm gonna say let's do girl, boy, and I think we have more women, I know we have more women. We're gonna wait for Peru to come back, to give us that energy, so we'll ask the men to use their energy.
And in the meantime, we'll be forming our circles.
Right. I was waiting for them to come.
I was fixing my skirt. You can make me one of those.
You can go there, you can go here, you can go anywhere. No, not two men.
No, not too much.
So standing on your square, 90-degree angle. And say to yourself, peace, be still. And feel that stillness. And in the stillness, know that we are one. We are divinely and uniquely one. And as we have invoked our guides and guards and ancestors to be with us here, we know that we have but to ask, and they will be here to assist us. We know that we are the ancestors returning. Let us find our strength, our wisdom, our healing power, to take on that mantle fully of who we are as divine people of this earth. As we walk in our power and our glory, we say Ashe,
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 Asheo.
Asheo.
So it is. So it is. Have a wonderful week. Give a hug, get a hug. Yes. Nourishment in the back.
Okay. I was there.
Thinking that was going to be something to stop.